Let's go ahead and kick things off. I wanted to start off with a quick round of intros and give the Struck team an opportunity to introduce themselves while we get Urson up here. So, Miguel, why don't you kind of kick things off and just introduce yourself and kind of the role you play with Struct and kind of your story in crypto.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Miguel. I'm one of the co-founders. We started Struct two years and a half. I'm mostly responsible for marketing, communities, and operations. Our story in crypto is started in 2019 as a private investor, then got into the rabbit hole. Back in 2021, I joined this accelerator called Antler here in Singapore, where I met my co-founders, Louis and Arsen. We were all very bullish on DeFi and the narrative. So we put our heads together and started working on our derivatives protocol. Yeah, we have been together since then through all the bear market, and we keep building. Very exciting to be here and share our story.
Awesome, yeah, and thanks for coming through, and excited to hear the story as well and what you've been doing. You guys sounds like you guys have been building for a while, so excited to hear that. Louis, why don't you go, and then I did see Urson calling up here, so I'll get him up here in a second.
Sure thing. So I'm Louis. Hi, everyone. I'm one of co-founders as well. Started off my career working in different venture studios, or what you call startup factories, focusing on getting different ventures from 0 to 1. Got into crypto back in 2020, just in time for DeFi summer, and really got hooked ever since. Met Miguel and Ursin in 2021, and I would say the rest is history. In the team, I focus heavily on the product, research and development, and I would say, yeah, those are the areas I'm most passionate about. I'm looking forward to talking more about Struct.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. And thanks for joining us. I've been calling Urson's account up here to jump up, but I think it's kind of rugging right now.
Yeah, I think it's
we'll
having
get that
some
going.
technical difficulties. I'll try and help him for a bit.
Matt, why don't you give an intro, and then maybe we just have the team that's up here so far. Just give a quick high-level overview of Struck just to kick things off while we get him up here.
Yeah, so my name is Matt. Been a part of the Avalabs business development team for about 2 years now. I originally joined primarily to be focused on DeFi and institutional and capital markets, but since then have kind of become more of a generalist in our ecosystem. So I help with a lot of infra, tooling, security, kind of deep technical teams as well. But before joining Avalabs, I worked in traditional finance for a few years directly out of undergrad, and I have some programming experience as well. I'm also on level 3 of the CFA, so I kind of try and combine that financial knowledge but with the technical knowledge I have and use it to help within the ecosystem.
Nice. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, why don't you kind of, I see him jumping in here, actually. Here we go. Finally got this working. Thanks to everybody for being patient with us. Appreciate it. And as this connects up here, there we go. Preston, how are you?
Okay, but I don't hear it. Oh, yeah.
You're here.
Okay, so I missed the action a little bit. It's been an early morning for us, and apologize for this. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but my name is Arsen Alkali. I met Luis and Miguel 2 years ago at Antler in Singapore, and we started our journey here. And we met our team at 2 hackathons in Wintermute and Chainlink Hackathon at the beginning of our journey. And since then, we've been all together and then have been building throughout this time. It's been an amazing journey since we started building on Avalanche. And first of all, I would also like to thank the Avalabs team for building this amazing network and ecosystem, providing us with the tools and resources and the opportunity to build on this fantastic and diverse network. It would have not been, without you guys. I would also like to thank the whole team at Struct, 8 people from all over the world that have been putting tremendous effort and work, working day and night throughout all these 2 years that we have been together. kudos to them. They made all this happen, and their families that supported them and had the patience to go through this journey together. Would also like to thank all our community managers that are working from 8-9 different locations and have been super amazing supporting us, and our partners and investors that supported us and put their faith in us. Another one, all the partners at GMX and Trader Joe and Banky that we have been interacting and collaborating with. It has been extremely fun to meet people of this caliber and work with them in this space. And then last but not least, the great community and everyone that has joined now this Twitter space on Avalanche that has been keeping us on our toes and whom we are building this with for.
Awesome. Thanks, Urson. Yeah, we appreciate it. And thanks again for coming through. So, Matt, I'll let you take it from here and jump into some of the questions.
Yeah, sounds great. So I guess first one is just generally, what is Struct Finance? Can you guys explain what the protocol does to us, as well as how it's kind of a new primitive within the Avalanche ecosystem?
Yeah, sure thing. So Struct Finance currently offers tailored structured financial products to different kind of risk profiles of retail and institutional investors. We like to call these instruments interest rate products, which is, by the way, just one of the planned lineups of product offerings that we are going to create, right? Already have created. What these interest rate products do, right? It actually utilizes tranching, which is a mechanism to split the risk of any yield-bearing position to enable different diversified kind of investment opportunities for users.
Got it. And what do you mean by tranching? Is there a fixed and a variable component, or how is that tranching done in terms of the underlying assets that are supported? Is it getting the yield from yield-bearing assets of other protocols, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So tranching basically involves the deployment of funds into a yield-bearing position, followed by a prioritization of how cash flows are returned upon maturity. So these instruments actually take place over a period of time where investors leave their deposits locked for a certain time to generate yield. So doing so by tranching, you can think of it as kind of like a waterfall mechanism, right, where you have the yield-bearing position generating the yield, right, and then splitting this yield up into two different categories. One we call the fixed category, which we provide conservative investors a sort of like stable and predictable returns. And then the remainder, after these predefined returns are hit, right, the remainder goes to the variable returns investors. And this sort of replicates, I would say, a leverage exposure for more risk-on investors. So by doing so, you kind of like split up the initial yield-bearing positions into two different kinds of instruments, right? One of which has a lower risk than the initial yield-bearing position, and the other has a higher risk. So you cater to multiple different, I would say, palettes or preferences.
Got it. So would you compare it to something like an interest rate swap in traditional finance, meaning like a fixed for floating rate swap, something like that?
I would say it's pretty similar. I think the difference is whether it's cash settled or like physically settled. For us, it's physically settled, so users actually have to deposit the assets itself, right? For interest rate swap, is cash settled, so it's like a contract for difference.
Got it. That makes total sense. Um, so I guess you guys recently joined Avalanche Rush. For those that don't know, Avalanche Rush is kind of our ecosystem-wide liquidity mining program that launched in 2021. And I guess for those of you in the audience that might not know what Avalanche is in general, it's a super fast and cheap smart contract platform that not only has kind of singular monolithic chains like the C chain, which is an instance of EVM that everyone loves and kind of DeFi builders kind of prefer in terms of a composable environment using Solidity, but also application specific blockchains that support alt VMs called subnets. And so we also have this notion of a primary network in which the C chain is part of that primary network, in which it also consists of the P and the X chain. But like I mentioned, Avalanche Rush was that liquidity mining program for various DeFi protocols that kind of started in late 2021, bringing over blue chips from Ethereum like Aave, Curve, SushiSwap, Beefy Finance, as well as kind of leaning into our native protocols like Trader Joe, Benchy, Pangolin, etc. So I guess, what does joining the Avalanche Rush program mean to your guys' team? Also, I guess, how do you feel Avalanche Rush enhances our kind of overall DeFi ecosystem within Avalanche?
Hey, sorry, I think Arsen is having some problems. May probably start. There are different benefits, thanks to the Rush incentives. The way we see it is like we will deepen the liquidity with the different protocols we are integrating with. Right, deeper liquidity also will attract more traders or institutions with large tickets to come to our protocol, to that protocol and trade. So what we facilitate is, like as we explained before, the mechanism of the two sets of investors, right? Where we have the ones that are looking for a fixed rate or a stable returns, and the other ones we're looking for the variable. So then we tranche it, we deploy, and we enhance. This is happening right now. Like last week, for instance, to be more concrete, like we on Wednesday we launched auto pools with Trader Joe. In 2 days or 3 days, I think we achieved 2-3 million. Like literally, the community on Trader Joe is really welcoming. Like we incentivizing the variable side because it's the guy that is supposed to looking for the upside, right? Like so it's taking a higher risk. So back to the finance principle, right? Higher risk, higher returns, right? The other guys are very happy right now. I will see like great success on Avalanche on the fixed side, 15 or 20%. Just immediately people rush and deploy. Like what's incredible to see that how dynamic, and this is how we see ourselves. We want to bring more dynamic to the ecosystem. Our vision is to for this you need to start somewhere, and to us is to start with some incentives to the people to deploy on the variable side. But then they will create a flywheel effect because more people will come, more trade, the trades increase, and then we have also more deals to tranche. So yeah, this is how we see ourselves playing a key role. Thanks to Avalanche for providing this opportunity. The way we see we want to position ourselves as a key player into the ecosystem and get everyone driving more traffic, driving more usage, driving more liquidity for their protocols, and then just be an integral part of the ecosystem, because the whole crypto DeFi, one of the key problems is liquidity. This is one of the problems that we want to solve.
Got it. And you mentioned working with Trader Joe. I guess this is a good transition to our next question in regards to where does the yield come from the underlying positions? Are you guys working with other DeFi protocols? And if so, how are those protocols generally producing yield for those assets? Oh, hello.
Hi,
You guys
sorry.
there?
I think Asim was supposed to come on, but then I think there's some technical difficulties again. Yeah, I'll just give a quick run through on the underlying yield bearing position that we have integrated with recently, which is Autopool. But I think it's hard to really understand Autopool without understanding Trader Joe's liquidity book, because the Autopool is actually built on top of Trader Joe's liquidity book. Right. So the liquidity book is basically a DEX that utilizes a bin architecture, different from the traditional AMM structure, which is a constant product function model. Right. It uses a bin architecture to enable concentrated liquidity, so it acts more of like an order book. Right. However, it requires more active management from users. Right, so you have to actually manually deploy your capital into the bins that you want, or rather the prices that you want your liquidity to be under. And this is where Autopools really comes in, right? So Autopools abstracts away all the complexity of managing these positions. In terms of where the yields come from, is from a fee that is charged every time a user makes a trade against these different bins. and then auto pool, since they are managing the position, gets that yield from the trades as well.
Okay, got it. And I guess this tranching or yield stripping mechanism into fixed and variable components, do you guys feel like any other protocols within DeFi are currently doing this? And do you feel like users, your stereotypical retail user, would have access to strategies like this, or would it be more democratizing institutional strategies, like we were mentioning, interest rate swaps, structured products, etc.?
Yeah, I think that there have been other kinds of, I would say you mentioned yield stripping protocols as well. However, they actually worked in a different way. I would say they tried to create what we call, or in TradFi, a zero coupon bond, right? So the likes of like Pendle, I believe there was a couple more that actually did this yield stripping protocols, similar to like, I believe Element Finance, Pendle, and so on. They are pretty similar, but I think one of the hurdles that they actually had to face was that because these different protocols have different maturity dates, they actually had to fragment the liquidity across all of this, right? And that actually presented a slight issue. And we are taking a different, I would say we are taking a different approach to this by using this tranching mechanism itself. In terms of structured products, well, in the space there were others like decentralized option vaults that were actually pretty attractive as well. It was something that we were looking into, and we actually were thinking of actually tranching those structured products itself. So yeah, quite a diverse, different landscape. And in terms of democratizing access to this, well, I would say that I'll highlight two ways in which we democratize access to like these kinds of products, right? So, firstly, by virtue of actually deploying on the Avalanche blockchains, right, users can actually deposit into these products permissionlessly, right? Secondly, we have been working on a feature called what we call the factory, right, which we will allow anyone to actually create these interest rate products based on different parameters, such as like the hurdle rate, the terms, the subscription period, and obviously as we integrate more with other protocols as well, then the users will also be able to actually select which kind of underlying yield bearing positions they would like. So yeah, I'll mention like these are the two ways that we are actually targeting it.
That makes sense. So you spoke about Trader Joe and auto pools, as well as what a concentrated liquidity dex is, and kind of how it's more similar to a central limit order book in which there's price bins. But on your guys' website, you also have GMX. Would you mind explaining the GMX protocol, as well as what GLP consists of and how fees are generated on GLP? And then based on that, what you guys are seeing in terms of tranching products?
Yeah, sure thing. So GLP is the liquidity pool, and the way I'll paraphrase it is that they are the liquidity pool that takes on the counter trades of all other GMX traders, right? In return for liquidity providers that deploy capital into these pools, right? They get a fees generated through any trades that happen, right? Any swaps through this GLP as well. And I would say the GLP holders are obviously, since they're taking the counter trades, are exposed to the P&L of these traders as well, right? So for us, right, the interest for us to actually tranche GLP is because we actually give different users a way to hedge against the P&L that I was talking about just now, right? Or actually even speculating on this P&L as well, and speculating on the yield, right? And taking on a much larger exposure if, let's say, they are bullish on GLP itself. Again, it really comes down to providing different kinds of risk exposures and catering to different investor preferences at the end of the day.
That makes total sense. I guess it's worth mentioning that GMX is a V2, and that V2 is kind of using GM related pools, kind of similar to your stereotypical LP positions within AMMs. Do you guys have any plans for offering kind of tranche products on the GM pools?
Yeah, I would say that definitely this is part of our roadmap to tranche different GM pools. I think it was the right direction for GMX as well. because I think by using that concentrated, or I wouldn't say concentrated, but the GLP like index, right? You can't really expand on the different kinds of listings that you can offer, and I think the GM pool, by fragmenting, I guess you have to fragment liquidity, but you enable much broader sets of listings, which we already see, right? I think the tranching mechanism will also work for any of those GM pools as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I was also talking to our treasurer about GMX V2 about a month or two ago, and I think it provides quite a bit of more customizability in terms of what assets you want to hold, and so you could almost make like a GLP style index, in which you get to control what assets or what beta you essentially want to be exposed to using and GMX V2 pools. I guess in terms of growth and expansion, well, we're on that topic. Is there any other protocols that really have your eye within the Avalanche ecosystem that you want to integrate with?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, just to jump back onto the GM side of things, because you're talking about how there could be other kinds of GM pools as well, and then how someone could be actually creating a GLP sort of index for multiple GM pools within it. I'll say that was something that we thought was super interesting, because for the tranching mechanism itself, right, if the underlying pool of assets, right, or pool of yield-bearing positions is actually uncorrelated, right? The senior tranche is actually much more protected at the end of the day, right? So if, let's say, someone actually does create something like a GLP of GM pools, right? I think that tranching that will be very interesting. I think there are a lot of other. I think right now we are tranching over auto pools, right? And auto pools, obviously, there are multiple different kinds of I would say tokens that can be listed on it. I'll say we are super excited for the LSDs, right? So liquid staking derivatives. So whether it's AVAX, and so on. I think other things that we are interested in is also FX, and also like real world assets as they come onto the Avalanche ecosystem itself. So we are actually speaking to quite a number of different protocols that are planning to offer this, but they are still within their roadmap. It's still, I would say, they are still in that testnet stage.
Okay. Real world assets is super interesting. Are you trying to kind of provide products that might already exist within traditional finance and bring them to DeFi, or what exactly are you thinking of in terms of RWAs?
Well, in terms of RWAs, so for example, like maybe credit funds, right, or those that actually bring this kind of I'll say credit instruments from the real world on chain, right? Again, jumping onto that uncorrelated, like pooling of different uncorrelated assets as well. For example, if you have different loan that have or loans across different kinds of industry that are big, and therefore I would say the risk is uncorrelated, right? You pull them together and you create an instrument out of that, and then tranche that. I think that will be super interesting as well. However, I'll just mention that we aren't actually the ones that are tokenizing, right? At the end of the day, we prefer to actually stick on the protocol level to actually, I'll say, add value on that on that front, rather than be the bridge between the real world and the on-chain side.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And something like term finance already is kind of doing fixed income auctions on chain, but using like volatile cryptocurrencies for those auctions, like Ethereum based auctions, Bitcoin, etc. But I would assume they could do something similar, but with RWAs. And it might even make sense to do something like, I don't know, giving short term loans to new projects to help bootstrap liquidity. And then based on those, um, short-term bonds or something of that nature, doing like a a tranche product built on top of them. But exactly like you said, I think that's something that you guys could kind of build towards in the future. Um, yeah, I guess I kind of taking a step back and asking more a holistic question. Why did you guys choose to build within the Avalanche community? Did you feel like our DeFi ecosystem was really proliferating? Did you believe in the underlying technology and the great platform that EGS, our engineers and kind of founders built? Or what exactly attracted to the Struct team to building here?
Yeah, I remember back at that time where we need to decide which change we were doing, like different comparisons, right? Um, the things that really stand out for Avalanche were a few things, like I would say technology. We want to build an EVM kind of technology. You have a very good tooling, so solidity was also a criteria. But one thing that really stands out for us was like the community and the protocols that they build around this really stood out for us because we see people building on top of each other, kind of like in this DeFi Lego narrative that we want to build. They were very supportive. I see the Avlabs team also contributing with intros. Everything seems to us so smooth, like they really make our choice very easy, right? Like because we were looking at Phantom, we were looking at other players at that time. We don't regret a minute to have joined Avalanche because we believe that technology is strong. Second, the community is also very thriving. It's been the last 2 years been tough for everyone, but we believe in the long term. So if we want to zoom out, our vision and this Avalanche visions are very similar. We want to have an impactful, build a DeFi kind of ecosystem. And this ecosystem needs to be built on good foundations, and the good foundation cannot be built just in 1 or 2 cycles, right? So we believe in real world assets. We believe like the world needs to have simplified ways to use these complex products. We call derivatives, we call structured products, but that's typically used by Wall Street banks, but now it's available to everyone, right? But this has a larger impact, as I said before. We can become like a true enabler in terms of providing liquidity. That gets me excited because more liquidity, more users come into the space. It means everyone is good for us, it's good for Avalanche, it's good for the whole DeFi ecosystem. So yeah, I truly believe in the technology, and then also we're working something in the stealth mode where we would like to shine and use the latest technology for Avalanche. But more to come this later.
Yeah, I'll just add as well. I would say I think Miguel was talking about the vision aspect. Just give me a second. Miguel, can you actually mute yourself? I'm hearing a feedback. Yeah. I would say we really resonate with Avalanche's vision of digitizing the world's assets as well. I think it will happen, right? And when it happens, we want the protocols that we create to be there to really support and amplify the value that these assets can bring to users. I would also add that the tool you were mentioning earlier, Matt, on all the different tools that you're actually providing to builders like us, and I'll just like to emphasize on that, right? Like Subnet is also something that we are personally looking at, and we are super excited for all the different kinds of developments that's happening on the Avalanche end as well. For example, like HyperSDK and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of our goal, both from an Avalanche business development team in terms of supporting every team that wants to build here, that truly believes in our technology, that are non-nefarious actors, and finding ways that we can collaborate with them, provide strategy, provide introductions, etc. But also building technology for the future and kind of enablement for the next generation of dApps to be built within that technology. And I think more and more teams are going to continue to kind of look at subnets as a long-term solution for kind of more complex dApps being built. But before we transition into questions, and if you do have any questions from the audience, Kyle will bring you up one by one and let you ask those in the last couple of minutes here. But do you guys have any final or closing thoughts that you wanted to get out before we open up the audience to questions?
Yeah, actually, it's an invitation. I want to extend an invitation, right? As we say, we just launched last week. We see an uptake on the community, and people are excited. There is a leaderboard as well, guys. So you know what it means. So I will invite everyone to participate. Those balls are very juicy. That's why you see like very close, very fast. But also we provide a lot of educational material. We have a medium where we talk about our thought leadership, what the benefits will bring to the ecosystem, what does it mean. you can also get acquainted to how this mechanism of the leaderboard works, etc. So yeah, jump into Discord, Struct Finance, and follow us on Twitter and Telegram. Yeah, we are 24/7 actually open for any questions. Like we have teams all over the place. So we work 16, 18 hours. We're very transparent. We believe in the ethos of transparency. So throw any questions. Someone will either the co-founders or the team members of the community will pick it up. Yeah.
A leaderboard, does that mean when token question mark? Uh-oh.
Well, I guess it's the follow-on question, right? It's a matter of time, right? We are striving and working 16, 18 hours every day. We want to hit the mark, like seems like we want to achieve TGE by a certain time. I feel like we have a very, very heavy activities between now and TGE, like talking to market maker, listing all these different things, marketing strategy, operations, blah 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 blah. We aim to have something around I don't know by the end of Q1 or probably early Q2. Yeah, so yeah, guys, stay in touch with the Struct Finance.
Yeah, so now I'm going to turn it back over to Kyle and let him bring people up for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, and thanks, Miguel and Louis, for carrying us through the conversation. Lots of great info there. I think it's really cool. I think the UX is great. I think I personally found a lot of help in the resources and documentation. So kudos to you on providing all that information. So we're going to jump into questions just as we start this off. Just wanted to remind everybody that we're honoring our guests' time here, and so we're going to keep all questions strictly related to Struct Finance. I know there's a million different things happening on Avalanche, but yeah, I just want to see if you have any questions for Miguel and Luis here from our team. So, Gracefine, you're up first.
Great to hear me, and I greet the Struct Finance people. You people have been doing well, and you have had a great talk here this morning. But my question is this: how do Struct Finance ensure the security and privacy of its users? I mean, the data. How do we guarantee the privacy and security safety of their data? And as well, how do you guarantee the security of fund that investors have with you? Thank you.
All right, maybe I'll take that. Graceman, really nice to meet you as well. In terms of privacy of data, we don't store any of our users' data, I would say. So maybe I'll jump straight to the security of funds and security of our contracts itself. I would say that we have a super strong security culture, right? And I'll skip the OPSEC side of things. I mean, the way we like to think about it is in terms of like people, assets, and processes, right? So for people and processes wise, right, we have quite a strong OPSEC kind of like process that we have, right? And in terms of security of the assets wise, right? So we don't hold any of our users' funds, right? All of our funds, all the funds are actually stored on the smart contracts itself, right? And in terms of the security of these contracts, so we have a very strong testing process or testing framework, right? Whether it's from unit testing, integration testing, fuzzing, invariant testing, so on and so forth, right? We have a very strong review process as well. We hire, I would say, independent security researchers to actually aid in our smart contract development as well. So our smart contract developers are super strong, right? They review each other and then have it reviewed by an independent security researcher. And obviously, we also use third-party auditors after that, right? Once we are ready. And then, so for all the contracts that we have so far, we have already gone through partners such as like Sokyo, Slow Mist, and also the Dope, right? And all three of them are super strong as well. And I say in terms of like post-deployment, maybe to step back a bit, that's kind of like the pre-deployment aspect. For the post-deployment aspect, I would say that we also partner with multiple different security firms as well. For example, the likes of like Slow Mist, that actually helps to beef up our own OPSEC system, and they also help to monitor on-chain, I'll say, activity, and I guess that's, yeah, and they also have great, I would say, investigation kind of like capabilities, right, and analytics as well. So in the event that, touch wood, like let's say, for example, a hack happens, they will jump on board immediately to really trace down any malicious actors.
Awesome. Thanks, Luis. Grace, fine. Thanks for the question. We're going to go to Dino here as the next person up. I know you called up for a while, so we'll get you here connected, and you have a question for the Struct team. So yeah, go ahead. Dino, are you there? Looks like you're still on. All right. Looks like it's not working. So we'll see if this works, but I think we do have a few minutes if there's any more questions. Last chance to kind of call up here and jump up if you have any question. But yeah, in the meantime, I just wanted to thank you guys again for coming through. And I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties with Ursin, but that's okay. I think you guys did a great job kind of sharing just how the protocol works, kind of your vision and why you built on Avalanche. And I think there's a lot of great info, but I think, like you mentioned earlier, there's so many great resources that you have on your site. And it's just great to bring in a new innovative product like this for Avalanche Rush. So yeah, it looks like you dropped down. Yeah, Matt, it looks like we can wrap things up. I don't think there's anybody else that's pulled up, and we'll give everybody back some time. But yeah, if there's any final things that you wanted to share.
No, I think I'm good, other than providing one final thanks to both the Struct team, but also Kyle for joining the Twitter space today. Kyle, you need to go figure out what you want to make for dinner and have a nice dinner.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, Miguel and Louis. We'll hope to have you back on other spaces here in the future. We're looking forward to seeing kind of just how well the growth goes over the next couple of months as Avalanche Rush kicks in and people are introduced to the platform. So yeah, looking forward to seeing your growth, and we'll definitely talk on spaces again sometime soon.
Okay, we just
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Just lose a couple of words. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We are super excited with Struct. We have a strong roadmap. The very beginning will be very strong. You guys will see it in the coming weeks. Different announcements, new products lines coming up. So please come join us. Join us in Twitter. Come to Discord. Ask questions. We have also some alpha for you. If you follow the leaderboard, you will be able to figure it out. We have some. We have another AMA next week with partners, etc. So we are going almost everywhere. We are talking to China, India, Russia. So yeah, just expect cool stuff coming from us. And thank you again for attending.
Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Carl.